the last time you went to a networking event, an interview, or even just a party and you introduced yourself? How quickly did you follow up your name with your job title, your role, your designation, or your profession and what you do? We all do it. I do it as well. Now, the thing is, we identify ourselves very closely with our job, with our role, with the work that we do. And yes, it's pretty much become a societal norm, but there are some strong downsides to it. Reason number one, when our identity is very closely hinged to the work that we do, then the ups and downs in our work life, the successes, the failures, the losses, the victories, all of that become very personal because in our brain, it feels like we are losing, we are failing, not the activity that we're doing as part of that role or that designation. So as a very extreme case of this, when somebody gets fired or somebody has to leave a job, the person almost feels like he or she doesn't exist anymore. They don't know who they are because they had so closely tied themselves up with that particular role. We've also seen this in the case of some people when they retire sometimes, where, once retired, the reason to exist has gone away because they always existed in that role as the person who was doing that particular job. Reason number two, this tight identification can actually prevent us from growing and evolving into better versions of ourselves. Now, how does this happen? There's something called the status quo bias in our brain, which means our brain sees anything different from what it's already used to as a threat, as a risky option, as a territory that is unknown to it and therefore could be dangerous. So when we want to try out a new role, do something different, experiment with our job, evolve and learn something that is new, even if we believe that it's better for us, a part of our brain will still try to hold us back and prevent us from growing, prevent us from changing, because the brain wants us to stay in the zone that it was comfortable with. Reason number three, the more we continue to see ourselves as our roles, as our job descriptions, when we refer to ourselves as just that, others in our life will also refer to us as just that in their own heads. This means this is going to limit the invitations that they bring to us, the opportunities that they bring, the possibilities that they show us. And therefore, we will not get invited into opportunities, roles, challenges, or even places which, according to the other people, are something that doesn't go with the way they've defined us in their minds, which is very tightly into the box of that job, right? So every job or every role holds with it its own associated set of stereotypes, and this could be different, but there will be a set of associated stereotypes related to your job that is there in the heads of the other person as well. And so when we are tightly defining ourselves by a particular role, we are limiting the way people treat us and open possibilities for us, to the extent that role is defined in a stereotypical way in that person's own head. 4, when the internal coupling between our definition of self and the job is very tight in our head, this can also lead to feelings of guilt, feelings where we blame ourselves and we beat ourselves up if we find ourselves doing activities or indulging in leisure or pastimes or things that are not tightly related to our job. So, for example, if I hold the identity of being a professor very tightly in my head, when I'm reading fiction or I'm doing something else which is not directly related to that professional role, I'm going to feel like I'm wasting time, like I'm not being myself, like I should not be doing that because that is not me. Now, why is this a problem? in reality, I am more than my role. So by doing this, what I'm doing is actually I'm denying several other parts of myself to get the interest and get activities and be rejuvenated and nurtured by things that I find interesting. And when I keep focusing only on the things that are tightly related to my job over time, this is what actually eventually leads to exhaustion or even burnout, because the rest of me is actually not finding any expression or any space to come alive. What we've talked about does apply to your job description, but the exact same thing applies to any label, role, or identity that we give ourselves. For example, the role of being a mother, or a wife, or a housewife, a homemaker, a parent. All of these are roles and tags that we give ourselves. And anytime we find ourselves identifying very tightly with that tag, it becomes a trap for us, a box, exactly for the same reasons that we discussed the job title. Similarly, when other people put us in that box, that's all they look at us as. So if somebody else puts you into the box of a housewife or into the box of a mother, when they think about things that you could do, they would be internally, thinking about, oh, but she's a housewife. So, this is what I'm going to invite her for, or this is what I will give her an opening for. Oh, but she's a mother. And they will be limited by their stereotypes about what a mother is and what a mother does, or what a housewife is and what a housewife does. Here are some action points. Watch your own self-talk. Watch how you describe yourself to yourself in your head. So I'll give you a cool anecdote here. I grew up in the steel city of Jamshedpur, and I grew up listening to the tagline that Tata Steel used for themselves, which is, "We also make steel." I thought that was really cute. And that's how I borrowed it from them. And so the way I describe myself to me is, I also am a professor. So what this does is, while it reminds me that, yeah, I'm a professor and that's my main job description, but there's so much more to me outside of that and apart from that. The second action point is, when other people refer to you, catch them when they use labels. So if they refer to you as mother or housewife or professor or this thing, when possible, and if it's not appropriate for them in that context to have put you in that particular box and called you as that, call it out. Call it out and ask them to refer to you by your name or refer to you as the person that you are. If it's not possible to do that, it's okay. They can get away with it, but at least make sure that you don't take it on and let it feed your own internal definition of yourself. Action point number 3, when you go out and make choices about what books to read, what books to buy, what conferences to go to, what networks to build, where to engage with, make sure that you're not doing that only led by your current job description. Because whatever your current role or job description is, and you could have more than one, whatever it is, it's temporary, it's not you. Chances are you would want to expand beyond that for the reasons mentioned before. And also chances are that you would want to expand beyond that for your own future itself. It's not stagnant, you are growing, evolving, changing. So make sure that you include enough opportunities for yourself to get fresh inputs and insights into your brain, experiences in your life, and networks and connections in your own network, which are outside of this box that you currently feel describes you the best.